This is all my fault. We're gonna get through this. We're gonna get through it together.
He really has been the Spider Boy. And this film is about him becoming Spider-Man. It's about him growing up, making his own decisions, and stepping up to the plate as a full-blown Avenger. And it's been really nice to kind of have that dovetail between myself on Spider-Man Homecoming and now who I am and who Peter Parker is in Spider-Man No Way Home. Whenever you get us back together, we always pick up where we left off. And sometimes it's a nightmare for John because we have so much fun on set that we can be quite hard to control because we're just having so much fun. But then again, that comes across on screen and it adds a level of chemistry that actors just couldn't sort of bring to life. The fact that we all really do love each other really does come across, and I think is why people are so invested in Peter Parker's relationship. This is definitely sort of the final chapter of the Homecoming series. You know, John Watts has done such a wonderful job of creating this genre of superhero movie that kind of hasn't been told before. The superhero movie that's about the kid, that has this John Hughesy vibe, that is the small town, really the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And this film is him stepping into bigger shoes and becoming the adult and becoming Spider-Man. The villains, essentially, they arrive in our universe because Peter Parker goes to Doctor Strange to ask for some help. He wants to wipe any knowledge that he is Spider-Man from existence, and Strange obliges. And in the process of doing the spell, Peter Parker is asking him to change certain things. He wants his girlfriend to keep the knowledge, he wants Jacob, Ned, he wants Aunt May, he wants Happy Hogan, and in the process of meddling with the spell goes horrifically wrong. And when I say horrifically wrong, what I mean is that every single person that knows who Peter Parker is in every single universe, which is an infinite amount, is being pulled into our universe. Those people are the famous villains that we know and love from the previous two Spider-Man franchises. So we have Willem Dafoe as the Green Goblin, Alfred Molina as Doc Ock, we've got Jamie Foxx is back as Electro, Sandman, we've got the Lizard. And for me, as an actor and as a fan of Spider-Man, it was so exciting to see them don their costumes again and to get back into character. What's so great about this film is, like, you'll have to go and see this film multiple times because it's so layered, it's so nostalgic, it's a celebration of cinema in so many different ways that I've seen it twice now, and I made the thing, and there's things that I missed, you know?
No, I really think that you should have a disguise. An effective one, but also one that's funny.
In light of the recent controversy,
We are unable to accept your application.
It's so unfair. I mean, I didn't do anything wrong. You guys definitely didn't.
You know what? I don't regret a thing I did. I think MJ, you know, she's at the end of the day, they're all just like teenage kids and they want to just be able to go to college and live a normal life. And that plan has been deeply messed up. So I think it's a bit difficult for her, you know? All she really cares about is making sure that she's there for Peter because she loves him, and he doesn't really have a lot of support, you know? The whole world seems to be against him, and that's a lot to handle at such a young age. So her job is just to be there for him, and I don't think anybody can really understand what they're going through except for each other. It's been fun to watch her kind of grow as the movies grow, you know, and their relationship grow. We've got to see them be two shy kids who didn't even know how to talk to each other to now being in like a full-fledged relationship, and it's pretty cute. Well, I think what's really special about this movie is, although there's all kinds of madness happening and multiverse madness happening, the core of it is really this friendship and the love that these people share for each other. You know, they've known each other for such a long time, and now they're going through, you know, life changes, but now the biggest life change you could imagine, and they're under so much scrutiny and public attention, and so I think they have to lean on each other so much more than they ever did before, and they're the only ones who can really understand what the other ones are going through. So, I don't know, I think their bond is even stronger, and they're there for their best friend. Peter and Ned are really probably MJ's only friends. And so Ned and MJ, I think, are kind of just the support system, and at times the hidden brains behind the operation. You know, they're trying to help out wherever they can. They may not have literal superpowers, but they're smart kids, and they work together to problem solve and do the best they can to manage a really stressful, chaotic situation that I don't think myself personally could be able to handle. But I think everybody just becomes closer. Although our little story in this world has kind of come to a close, what's really cool, I think, about this movie is that it opens the door to a multiverse of like infinite possibilities of things that we could imagine and things that can happen. So I'm excited to see where it goes.
Badass.
My name is Dr. Otto Octavius. Peter.
No.
There's no way your name's Dr. Otto Octavius.
That's ironic.
Wait, seriously?
I think he's like excited for all the action, but doesn't really know what's gonna happen. And I think he goes on a very crazy adventure along with his two best friends that really changed the world and the universe. So I feel like you can expect Ned to be super hilarious, but also going through a life-changing thing. I think that they are just working as a team. I think Ned and MJ have really become his two confidants in a big way, and they definitely help him a lot in this movie as well. So it's like just a team forming together. Well, they're amazing people. I love them to death, and they've really been there for me. I feel like we've seen each other through a lot, and I mean, they're my family, and I think that obviously translates on screen. So it was never hard to get along with them. Again, they're like my brother and my sister. So we just naturally are really all good. Spider-Man: No Way Home is sort of culmination of all three movies, and it introduces us to a multiverse of possibility. Unstoppable. It's unbelievable. You won't be able to process it all. You might want to watch it a few times to really get everything. It's crazy. It's probably the greatest. I mean, I don't think anything in movie history is going to top this now. So, yeah.
Hello, Peter. What I thought was so wonderful about the first film, the first time, was that they gave Doc Ock this wonderful redemptive moment. You know, and like all great villains, like a lot of villains in the Marvel universe, he's become a villain kind of reluctantly, or almost by accident. And Kurt Connors, it happens to, there's all sort of, something happens and everything, and their world changes. So I knew that when John described what's going to be Doc Ock's first appearance in this film, that he just knows it's going to be like a moment of like, it's going to be a fantastic. So I wanted to kind of make sure that I was in the right place, in terms of the performance and everything. So it was useful to go back and look at the first film, but at the same time, it's a different director, it's a different movie, there's a freshness to it. So I didn't want to just kind of come back and replicate what we'd done before. It was important to me to arrive as if this was the first time. There's a mutual respect there, and we're all kind of, we know each other's work, and we've all been around for a while, and there is a sense of camaraderie that comes from a shared experience in terms of, we've all done one of these before. In Willem's case, I think it's been more than one. So there's a sense of, like we've kind of, we've arrived at a place where we can enjoy this without being too precious about it. We can enjoy it for all the marvelous things that it's giving us, but also for all the absurdities of it. Three grown men in kind of these costumes, kind of, sort of giving as much energy to it as we would if we were playing Shakespeare or something else. It's a wonderful place to be. Some actors like Jamie, who is a master at improv. I mean, his brain just works so fast, and Tom as well. Tom, because Tom's got the experience of playing the character so many times, he just knows the right tone. There's a couple of factors that go into that, I think. One is that he's, as you say, very enthusiastic. He loves this genre, he loves this world. He treats it with respect. He's a fan. But also, he loves bringing out the humor. You know, he wants the audience to find it not just dramatic and exciting, but he also wants them to find it as delicious as he does. He wants them to enjoy the moment. He's encouraging us to improvise and to kind of throw in, you know, he always, when he's got the takes that he wants, he'll always say, okay, one more just for you. Do what you want to do. He takes the work very seriously, but himself not at all. He doesn't, you know, he's not one of those directors that kind of, you know, a friend of mine used to describe working with directors who had a big jacket on with the word director on the back in lights. You know, he's not one of those at all. You know, but he arrives with an enthusiasm like he's just come back from, you know, he's just come back from the store and he's got a whole bunch of new comics that he hasn't bought yet, you know, that he hasn't seen before. He comes with a joy.
Where the hell are we? You look over and you see Willem Dafoe and Alfred and all these guys, you just go like, I mean, these guys are prolific actors in the first place. And we talked about this earlier. It's like, I think what was done great by Marvel was that they have guys that are incredibly provocative as just actors. He'd say, take a free one. Let's see what you got. And sometimes in that free take, he finds jewels and connects it and makes magic out of that. That's the way John works. He makes it so personable that before you put on a suit, before you shoot your web, you already dig Tom Holland. You dig the way Tom Holland's eyes are, like just sort of bright and that. And so, you know, he's able to build off of what you are as a character before the supernatural hits. And that's where I think he wins. And I think this will, you know, knock on wood, win because of that, because that's how you feel. You root for these guys in and out of the costume. Not a lot of directors have that confidence. Like, you know, I got the grid, I'm gonna A, B, C, D, but to be able to float it all up in the air and juggle it and then put it together, you know, I told him, I said, bro, you're in your prime, because that's a unique quality, especially in this business now where our business is painting inside the lines and things like that. So for him to be able to take that paintbrush and just, you know, Jackson Pollock it in a way, it's appreciated. I cannot wait to see it in an audience with people who are probably like just chomping at the bit to get out.
This character is maybe in some ways even scarier and darker. The Goblin character really believes in a world of losers and winners, and he believes that power is all that matters. And it's not an abstract thing. Philosophically, he has very little patience or interest in compassion or empathy. He thinks there's people that, he believes things get done by people that are strong, and weak people, we don't really worry about them. So that's a very contemporary take on a person in power, and I think that is part of the motor behind the character. I just was concerned about how contrived it was, or whether it was just like a power cameo, a reference, you know, to root something. And I really was worried that I wouldn't have something to do. So when Amy and John spoke to me, they pitched me the idea, and it sounded great. And actually, it's been a lot of fun. I mean, the convention is basically a portal is opened and, you know, time is scrambled and things from another dimension are now alive in this dimension. I've mostly dealt with Alfred and Fred and Jamie, and they're two actors. I remember Fred and I started about at the same time, so I followed him for years. And Jamie, I've always loved all the way back to his In Living Color days, you know, him, just a fantastic comedian and really good actor, and also very good physically. So you're dealing with people that have real skills. You're not carting in some sort of thing that's inert or just points to things. It's a living thing. And then when you add John in, who really lets people personalize things and really wants them to find the specificity, he lets everybody riff in their way, depending on, you know, the individual. But it's been fun. To do this physical stuff was important to me. In fact, one of the first things I said to John and Amy, basically when they pitched it to me before there was even a script, was, listen, I don't want to just pop in there as a cameo or just fill in close-ups. I want to do the action because that's fun for me. And also, it's really impossible to add any integrity or any fun to the character if you don't participate in these things, because all that action stuff informs your relationship to the characters and the story, and also allows you, it makes you earn your right to play the character in a funny way. John is really good because he's tough, he's clear, he has vision, he's a real filmmaker, but he's also loose. He's very playful and he's got a little devil in him. So when you get there, you try to accomplish what he feels like he needs to get accomplished, and then almost always he's like, okay, now let's have some more fun, or, you know, do whatever you want. Or he always gives you an opportunity to play around, and that's great.
I know.
Thank you. There we go.
Where's me? When we had the chance to bring Spider-Man into the MCU with Homecoming, it was really exploring two things that had never been explored before in the Spidey movies. One was making him much younger, that he's in his early years of high school and dealing with what it's like to be that young and to have these powers, and to really relish the high school setting. And the other one was that it's set within the broader Marvel universe and that there are other heroes there. So for the first few films, it was always, how do we do things that have never been done before? So it did not occur to us to do a new Goblin story or to do an Oscorp story or to do Doc Ock or anyone that had been done before, which is why Vulture and Mysterio were really the key characters. And even as we were doing that, and I've been saying for years, long before anybody asked me what I thought, that you can't get better than Alfred Molina as Doc Ock. That stepping into those shoes would be very, very difficult. And it wouldn't be fun to find a way, if you were ever going to bring Doc Ock back, that it would have to be Alfred Molina. And in early development on this third Homecoming movie, we realized that thanks to the MCU, there's a way to do it. One of the reasons we wanted him to be as young as possible is so that we could explore the high school years. And very much like the Harry Potter franchise did, each book is a year in school. So initial ideas were, yes, we have sophomore year and junior year and senior year. And we've stuck to that sort of. He's had amazing adventures in between those years. Far From Home ended up being sort of over a summer of that. And No Way Home very much is his senior year. And just as his senior year is starting, when he's figuring out what he wants to do with his life and where he and MJ and Ned want to go off to college together, of course, coincides exactly when Mysterio outs his identity. and the worst possible thing happens to Peter Parker, that his identity is revealed, he's being framed for all the terrible things that happen in Far From Home, and all he really wants to do is start his senior year and have a normal kid experience, and that push and pull between being a hero and being a regular kid. Sitting in a room, in this case it was a conference room at Marvel Studios, with the team is always my favorite part of the process, where anything is possible. We knew coming out of Far From Home that we didn't want to shy away from the fact that his identity is now revealed. It's out there. And that was certainly always the starting point. And with Eric Summers and Chris McKenna and our director John Watts and Amy Pascal, we sat and just started brainstorming. What happens next? What happens to him as he swings away from Madison Square Garden where that big TV screen outed his identity, and how does his life change and get turned upside down? And more importantly, how does it affect his friends? You know, Peter Parker can handle a lot, but when he starts to see his friends being affected by his actions unfairly, that really is emotionally draining for him. So that was always early on where it was. And we had a lot of fun discussions. It's always, you know, having a discussion of what would be cool? It'd be cool if we did this. It'd be cool if we did that. As I said, I'd always been saying, yeah, if we ever brought Ock back, you'd have to bring Alfred Molina in. And how would you do that? And we thought it might be fun someday. But as we started working on really tracking the story of Tom Holland as Peter Parker and what would he do, and what does he have access to in the MCU to undo this? And we realized, well, he knows who Doctor Strange is. Doctor Strange is down there on Bleecker Street in Greenwich Village. He could just go ask him to fix it all. Just magically fix it all. Just turn back time or do a spell or do something so that my life can go back to normal. And as you might imagine, it's not that easy. And things start to go wrong because he starts to realize, okay, well, Doctor Strange has a spell of forgetting, but he doesn't want everybody to forget. He wants Aunt May to know and Happy to know and MJ to know and Ned to know. He's not by himself in our universe. He's got confidants, and he doesn't want to lose that. So he starts screwing up the spell. And Doctor Strange finally has to shut it down and say, never mind, kids, sorry, I never should have even tried this. You're just going to have to deal with it. But unfortunately, even in those little moments where a spell was going awry, we slowly start to realize that instead of making people forget that Peter Parker was Spider-Man, the spell went awry so that everybody in any universe who knew Peter Parker was Spider-Man came into our world. What's such an honor working in Marvel Studios is getting to watch storytellers, whether they're actors, whether they're directors, whether they're writers, whether they're the other creative producers, grow and change and evolve over the years. And John Watts is an amazing example of that. He did a great film called Cop Car, very small but very character-oriented, which is really what got him on our radar for Homecoming. And now seeing him grow through Homecoming and then Far From Home, and now with No Way Home, which is by far the most ambitious Spider-Man film ever made, seeing how he's grown into that role, and really now has gone from an excited newcomer to an excited expert, which is fun to watch. And he's now handling these tremendous action scenes with a skill that now other filmmakers are looking up to and wanting to learn from, which is just fun now am I becoming an elder statesman? Maybe I am. To now sit back and watch that is really amazing. When I met with Amy Pascal and first approached her about joining forces to do a Spider-Man movie together and set them in the MCU, and when we got her blessing and the blessing of Sony, and Tom Rothman came on board and believed in it, there was a lot of pressure, right? There's one thing getting people to say yes. It's another thing now delivering on what the heck you were talking about. And the first step on that is casting and is saying, okay, let's find the youngest Peter Parker who we can grow with and who can do scenes with these other Marvel heroes for the first time. And we knew that Tony Stark was going to be a big part of that. And Civil War was already shooting at the time, and we weren't sure we were going to be able to cast Peter Parker and include him in the initial round of photography on Civil War. But we wanted to make every effort to do that. So yes, we flew, I think, about five actors in and had them do readings with Robert Downey Jr. And it was his graciousness, and he's always so gracious, particularly with other actors, with his time. And that we narrowed it down there with that reading. Then we did one more with Chris Evans, and it became very apparent that Tom Holland was not just an amazing Peter Parker, but he incredibly was an amazing, no pun intended, Spider-Man, because he had both the abilities of a great actor and the abilities of a great gymnast and stunt performer, which was just an added bonus, which continues to blow us away and surprise us. Yeah, I remember he did a giant flip right in front of Evans during that reading and threw Evans off. He couldn't believe what he just saw in front of him. And as I've said, that dynamic between a very young Tom Holland interacting with Robert Downey Jr. for the first time was exactly the dynamic we wanted between a young Peter Parker interacting with Tony Stark for the first time. And seeing our Peter grow and grow out of that, the shadow of Iron Man, as we saw him start to do in Far From Home, in which he completely does now in No Way Home, and really become his own hero.
Just sort of sitting in a circle, talking through the story and trying to sort of discover it together and find the nuance. It wasn't like, you sit down at your computer, print out the pages and say, this is what you're gonna say, It meant so much to everyone there that I just wanted to really discover it with them. And it became this like really cool, again, surreal is the word I keep coming back to, like collaborative process. It was just thinking about what would be fun to see, visual combinations that you never thought you would see, how to put things together. And just at the heart of it, who are these guys? Like, who are these actors? How great would it be to see Alfred Molina again and Willem Dafoe, and get to see Willem Dafoe without the mask, really get to see him be who he is. And, having Jamie get to come in. There's so many great actors that have been in these movies, and to be able to bring them all together and to like find a way to finish their storylines, maybe in a different way. And they're all sort of the victims of accidents. Like, they're all the victims of technological mistakes. Some hubristic, some purely accidental. Jamie Foxx just falls into a tank of electric eels. Like, it's just an accident. But to use that as an entry point to telling a story about the idea of second chances, I love it. It's like The Usual Suspects or, Reservoir Dogs. Like, I love the idea of putting a bunch of rogue villains together and just watching them meet each other and hang out and talk. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be an action scene every time. Like, I love the idea of Sandman and Electro talking about how they got the way they were. Like, it's just, I've never really seen that.
别忘了订阅我们的频道，打开小铃铛就不会错过任何精彩内容，随时上架。我们下回再见。